my cells. And yeah, and then, you know, meditating, and there's just so many little parts of that day, depending, you know, what you have for breakfast. It sort of all sets you up to have your best foot forward.
Yeah. So what makes your heart sing is doing the self-care, so that probably so you could be the best version of yourself for everybody else you're interacting with through the day, right? Because you're doing so many coaching clients and all these different meditations, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
does
you
that
really got
look
to
like?
feel you.
What's that?
Oh, so you just got to fill your own cup before you fill
First.
everyone else's.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just become a depleted mess, and that energy, it's no longer, you know, really tapping into source, because you're not your sort of highest, most high vibrational self.
Mm.
You are just completely depleting your cells and your life force. And yeah, with the, you know, the rituals of tapping into Mother Earth daily, to grounding, and you know, just tapping into nature around us, we draw so much inspiration and also life force from that space. And if we're not doing those sort of things, you know, we're just going to be completely bleeding ourselves dry. And I've been in that position before, where I've been you know, back-to-back meditation classes and back-to-back clients, and also working landscaping on top of that, and having a newborn baby. And yeah, that was a time where I was extremely depleted, and really just giving. I was in this giving zone. You know, I was the breadwinner. I was the you know, the father, the, you know, the hunter, the gatherer. That sort of energy. And yeah, without looking after myself, even though I was giving all this energy to everyone else, I started almost disconnecting from that space of giving from source, where it isn't my energy, and I'm this pure channel of life force. And yeah, I became very depleted after that.
And so what did you do to fill yourself up again? I guess what kind of things, like what are the specific rituals, or what are the specific ways you tap into Mother Nature? What do you do?
For sure. In that specific time of my life, where there was a hell of a lot going on, I actually stopped teaching meditation for a while. I actually pulled all my classes, and they were like the in-person classes, and I just took some time for myself and really reconnected to myself. So, you know, that's walks on the beach. You know, I live only a couple of houses away from the beach, and, you know, we're always down there walking in the water, just soaking in Mother Nature. And yeah, just reconnecting to my practices, reconnecting to meditation, and allowing it to become my foundational piece of my days. And, you know, going in and seeing spiritual healers for healings, whereas I would be the spiritual healer that would be giving the healings. I, of course, need to top myself up in that space. If I'm not booked in, you know, once every either month or every 6 weeks, like, I really, really notice a shift in my energy. And yeah, it's just something, you know, when we know better, we need to do better. And that was just something that was really slapped into my face, and a really good lesson for me.
This is so cool. What?
And I think a lot of light workers go through this. It's a massive transition, where we first believe that we just need to give, and, you know, being of service is giving, but there is a huge part of equal receiving, the receivership.
Yeah. And I think that's so cool that you talked about that. And one of the things that I noticed that you were saying, Jason, was like, you just were comfortable with just saying, okay, I'm going to put this on pause, my business, basically. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not serving me right now, and I'm not able to serve at my highest vibration or highest level. And I'm going to work on me and then get back to it and make it that much better. Right.
Yeah.
Where
I wouldn't say comfortable. It was probably the shittest, most hardest decision I've had to make. There was a lot of internal turmoil.
Okay.
Because of, I guess, you know, my purpose and my mission feels so strong.
Yeah.
And then to seemingly throw it all away for a while.
How long was a while? How long was that?
I stepped away for about a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I completely went into landscaping, and just literally went into that hunter gatherer mode of, like, you know, earning the money, just going out each day, doing the thing, and coming back home. And that was with a very, very young little boy who's now 3 years old. And yeah, times were very different. And I feel like a lot of fear got in the way. There was something there, whether it was some old karmic release that needed to take place, or karmic paying back some karma that needed to happen, or who knows. I'm not attached to that time. I'm not attached to it. It's
right.
It was a beautiful lesson, and there was a lot of amazing stuff that came out of it as well.
Yeah. So, and it's not something that you regret. I mean, I guess I don't, I guess in the mindset and the way that you live your life, you probably don't have a lot of regrets, I'd assume.
Yeah, I truly don't. So I can't even think of one. Yeah.
So you definitely don't regret it. So it was that's really interesting. So you still have one kid right now?
Yeah, River. Yeah, he's
River.
3.
River,
yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
He flows like a torrential river. He's equal parts calm and like beautiful and generous, and then he's equal parts just like a complete nutter and like so crazy and so much energy, and like he just keeps us on our toes, and like I wouldn't change it for the world. Like he's amazing.
That's awesome. And how do you attribute? I have a 2-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, and
wow.
So I can relate completely.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, I don't even know if I've said this on the podcast before, but if it wasn't for my daily meditation practice, I think I would lose it so many times just based on my history and how I am.
Yeah.
Like I attribute so much like being a better father from my meditation. Do you have stuff that rubs off that you think that totally contributes to that?
Yeah. There's those boiling points where you get to, and that's where like the witnesser comes in, and you can actually witness yourself in that space, as opposed to just completely being that, the steam out of the ears and blowing off your top. And you can sort of witness yourself and that boiling process, and you can manage it. You can sort of take those deep breaths and just take each moment, each second as it comes almost. And there's times I get extremely frustrated, and I'm not saying there's never any yelling or anything around our house. Like it's just sometimes as a parent things just get freaking frustrating, and there's they're not listening. 3 years old is such a time of their self-expression and pushing edges and boundaries, and they just don't want to do anything that you say. Getting him dressed at the moment is just like, sometimes we both have to like literally almost pin him down, but just to get a sock on, and the noise and the movements that are coming out of him, you think he's possessed. So like, it just takes another level of awareness and just being grounded, and yes, all these practices in our day that allow us to deal with it. And I just feel for parents who don't have some of these practices in their life, or any practice. Perhaps it's a practice of literally having a beer or a wine at the end of the night. Like, that is relaxing in one way, but then it's not actually building our internal capabilities to meet these external demands. So
what is it? So I was somebody that had a half a bottle to a bottle of wine every other night for a while, up until a couple of years ago. What is it that why isn't that a thing that it's like a fix? Or I guess, what is it, just a patch? Is that what you're saying? It's just kind of like a temporary.
There's so many thoughts on this. I mean, for myself, I feel like it really disconnects me from my true self. If I have, and it's not to say I never have a drink. This is something that I was thinking about only just last night. I was flicking through this magazine, and it came up with all this whole spread of alcohol-less drinks. So beer without alcohol and all this stuff. And I hadn't even thought about this for such a long time, because I haven't drunk for such a long time. And if I do have a drink, it might be a couple of times a year, and it will be so scheduled in, like, I won't see any clients or like have any sort of service-based things for about a week afterwards. But it's something like, if it just happens to happen, it is scheduled in. So I really, there's a lot of, light workers who get very hung up on, are very strict around this. And, I'm strict. I'm not, I wouldn't even say I'm strict, because I just don't even think about drinking.
Right.
But it's just, if we're down at our family's holiday house, we're all sitting around the fire, we're there for the long weekend, one of my dad or my father-in-law offer me a beer. Like, sometimes I'll have it. Most of the time I say no. We had a birthday dinner last night, and I didn't have a beer, even though everyone was offering me. I'm like, no, I'm cool. And, they respect it. They know where I'm at.
Yeah.
But, just loosening that grip off of the stringentness over it, really. Otherwise, you start to embed a lot of guilt if you even think about having it. So, that's sort of how that's my relationship with it.
Interesting. I've talked to a lot of people, and this is probably one of the first couple of times, but one of the things I realized is that with daily meditation teachers, especially, like, it isn't even a thought. Like you say, exactly how you explain drinking, kind of just happens. So for me, as you're talking here, I even to this day can't explain it to people, where I was a drinker. Like, I wasn't abusive. I just loved, like, getting drunk, getting a buzz, and drinking. Not to the point of blacking out, but just having a bottle and feeling fine and very tolerant. And all of a sudden, like, I don't know, 2 months into my practice, I don't know exactly when, I just didn't even think about it or want it. So all these bottles of wine that I have sitting in my basement are taking forever to be drank, because I used to buy a ton at a time. It's interesting that you say that, and it just kind of happens, right, without us even realizing it, like you said.
Absolutely.
And when we
start to tap into our true self and really get even shine the flashlight across it a couple of times, we see there's this field of within us that we would generally see as a void. We're trying to fill a space, but then we flash that awareness past that space, and we see this entire world, this entire universe within us, and we start to gain such a different relationship with ourselves, and the lightening of our load. With a practice, when we start to embark on a practice, there's generally a period of time where there's like some unstressing and de-stressing that happens within the body. We come, first of all, our adrenal glands, they're getting wound down from volume 10 to 1 or 2, and at a really manageable rate. And we start to chip away at a humongous fatigue jet that we've accrued for our entire life. And, just the stress and the anxiety that's like a residual buzz within our auric field, all of that starts to just gently dissipate. And there's no longer a void within us that we need to fill. So, and I feel like the alcohol is sometimes that is what it is. We're trying to fill it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I really like how you described that. Earlier, I would want to jump back a little bit, because I did want to ask this question. When you do, because we all go through it, like you said, we're human. When you do have a reaction that you're kind of like, with your kids, that you're kind of like, I wish I didn't scream like that. I wish I didn't yell like that. Or I wish I didn't say that. I wish I didn't do that action.
Yes.
What's after that for you?
Yeah, for sure. Generally, it's a small time of, like, separation. So I might just go into the kitchen or lounge room or outside and just almost like cool off. So, cool off pretty quickly, because you sort of tap back in, and you already instantly realize, as soon as the reaction has even taken place, that it wasn't the best way to react or respond to your little guy or girl. So, then, sometimes there's tears from them, and, so you're feeling really bad, and it's always like a coming together and perhaps just talking it through. At 3 years old, I can really speak to River, and he understands. So yeah, it's just a coming together and a bit of a, we'll sort of say sorry to each other, and he's starting to recognize what that means, and it's just like a reconciliation. this is why this happened, and this is why Daddy gets angry in this time. Like when this happens, when I've asked you 13,000 times.
The
So
13,001th time, I start to lose it a little bit.
I lost my cool. So yeah, and that happens when the main time that happens is like when, say like he's going to bed and he hasn't, he doesn't sleep in the day. He hasn't slept in the day for about a year anymore. Oh yeah, slept in the day for a year. So
right.
yeah, he goes to bed. Let's say he goes to bed at 9 o'clock, and we're all extremely tired. We've been up since 5 or whatever. Starting our routine of self-care, and yeah, everyone's just so fatigued and like at the end, like at their wits' end. We want to go to bed, and he's just wanting to bloody party. He's wanting to listen to disco music and bounce around the house. Yeah, so yeah, it's in those times where your internal capabilities are so stretched, and yeah, you just really need to go and either have another meditation for the day, or take a humongous deep breath and attack it from a different angle.
What time do you usually go to bed? Or try to go to bed?
Between probably around about 10
around
p.m.
10. And then you're up around 5?
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yep. Just depending on what's happening throughout the week.
Trying to get up a little bit before River gets up, if possible.
Yeah. Sometimes that can be hard. This morning he came in at 4:44. So he did go back to sleep for a little while. But 4:44 for me, that's like my number plate's got 444 in it. And it's a number, like the sequence of numbers is all about your spiritual guides, like having your back and being around you. So whenever I see that number, which is quite often, I always feel comfort. So although it was like, oh my God, it's 444, I was like, it's all good. Like it's all good. Yeah.
Where does that number come from?
So just like in a sort of spiritual sense, like each number has different meanings, different correlations. So 1111, if you see like 1111, or even just any sequence of ones, 111, whatever it may be. New beginnings. Like there's just so many little pieces that numbers can give us as messages. And just lately in the last 3 or so weeks, like I've been connected to numbers through many parts of my journey, but within the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, they've really been coming into play, and they've actually been integrating into my life and into my wisdom as like almost part of my intuition. So if there's ever any internal question or something that's like, I've just gotten off an email or gotten off a call from someone, there's a bit of a decision to be made. It's like, okay, just sitting with it. And I can feel, my intuition's pretty strong. It's like an on and off switch. So as soon as I hear something, it's either like a hell yes or a hell no, pretty much instantly. And then sometimes if I ever second guess that, it's been crazy. I've been looking at, times or whatever it may be, and they'll be like, it'll be like 1111. And it's always a sign for me that, the decision was correct.
Interesting.
Or you're on the right path, or those sort of things. And that's how it's been playing out in my life of in recent times. And it's very profound how it's been working.
Interesting. And those numbers, it's based on the time pretty much, is usually when you see the numbers. I mean, do you see it anywhere else besides time?
Yeah. Yes, you do. I mean, you can see it just on social media or something like that, or like there's so many. I'm trying to think of an example.
Yeah.
Just even like street signs or stuff like that. There's different numbers and different things everywhere. So
that's probably a whole podcast we could talk on that. But there is something that I do want to make sure we talk about, and I told you this before we started. I haven't talked to anybody about this yet. I don't even know whether do I call you a Reiki master?
Yeah, that's what I am. Yeah, Reiki master.
Okay, beautiful. See, I'm not even I'm just not familiar with it. Like I know a lot about meditation, yoga, but Reiki. So, what is I saw in your first and foremost, let's introduce what is it, and how is it different from, I guess, meditation?
For sure. So Reiki is an energy healing energy healing technique, sorry. So essentially you are channeling energy from a space in which many people call source. Many people still would call that place the universe or nature itself. I see it as a bit of a holistic space where we channel energy from, and it's just allowing ourselves to tap into some extreme subtleties to draw life force from, this ever-present realm, which has just this unconditional love. It has spiritual wisdom, and what are the building blocks of our entire body, like life force energy, which keeps us alive and vibrant. So when we tap into that space, there's a bit of a process to go through, almost like a prayer as such. And we tap into that, and it comes down through, for myself and for everyone, it comes down through their crown chakra, comes down into their heart, into their body, and then out through their hands. So it's it's such a beautiful technique, and in essence, it is to bring the body back into balance. So the prana or the chi, back into balance. Yeah.
Well, I know I'm familiar with it with kind of somebody rubbing your hand, putting your hands over someone's body, right? Like as they do that. How do you? I saw you have a distant Reiki.
Yes.
How does that work? I mean, can you talk about that a little bit? It's interesting.
Absolutely. Just because, in the spirit world, there's no such thing as time or space. Everything is interconnected. So through our intention and through the channeling of the energy, that energy can be delivered anywhere, in any second, any time. So it's I actually do the sessions through Zoom, and so many people ask me how does that even work? We're just having a chat, but some of my most profound sessions have been through a distant healing. It's just so crazy. Obviously we have a little consultation at the start, and we talk about what we may want to work on, and then I just get them to lay back or sit back and get as comfortable as possible, and walk them through a bit of a relaxation process, tap into the energy, and then we go. So in that space,
well, what kind of profound results or things happen? I'm so interested. What happens during this, after it? Can they bring it on? Does it expand to their regular day life afterwards? What's going on? You have to keep doing it. Sure. You have to keep doing sessions. So
a lot of people come to me in a space where they are probably quite overwhelmed, or they're going through something. They might feel just like this crazy heavy weight on them that they just can't, they've been to a doctor, they've been to a chiropractor, they've been to, whoever it may be, but there's just this persistent residual, almost ickiness that they're feeling. And sometimes in a session that could come up as a past life regression, past life healing. So we're literally cutting cords, energetic cords, ties, connections from different realms that may be connected very much with karma. And that karma is actually playing out with that same soul that is incarnated into someone in this life, who is, those energies are still playing out. So you might have been killed by someone 3, 4, 5 lifetimes ago, and then that has come into this life, and because say they killed you, that karma is switched, and there's a bit of payback happening, or it can play out in any different way. But then there is this incessant relationship which is happening and has occurred throughout your entire existence in this life. And you're what the actual hell is going on? And why can't I disconnect? Why can't I find the right partner? Why do these people keep doing this? Why do my boyfriends or girlfriends keep doing this to me? And it's about going back, taking ownership, accepting, sending love to the perpetrator, and completely disconnecting from that space.
Wow. So you're disconnecting. You're trying to disconnect from that energy or that past life progression, and not let it carry through. Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, that's I'm a Reiki master and a spiritual healer, and for me they're basically the same. But Reiki is I could go through a whole Reiki session and not say a word and not even touch you, physically. So just hands hands above your, within your auric field, somewhere within the different 7 layers of your aura. And so that's, that's one side of it. But then the spiritual healing side, which I learned, quite a few other techniques, like the past life regressions, or, a lot of inner child work. I'd say 95% of energy work really boils down to the inner child, and like how we've been conditioned and programmed, and what is, any traumas that have happened in our early childhood, even up to about the age of 14 or even a little bit older, as we're like, especially when it comes in, there's like sexuality which starts to, blossom and come into people's lives, up in 16 and what have you. So yeah, it goes anywhere. And yeah, there's just been some very profound healings, and it's just always, it's such a beautiful space to be able to take people and hold people, especially when, one of my last clients was in New York the other day, and the tears that flowed after that, it was just like the hugest release that she experienced, and then that just continued, that absolutely goes from that session and instantly integrates into your life. Yeah. So there's things that can fall away quite quickly, which are bad, like, unhealthy relationships. I don't want to say bad relationships, unhealthy relationships. And, whether that's the way you show up for yourself. This person in particular wanted to be getting back into dancing and back to the gym and these sort of things, and just felt the most inspired they had felt in, what would feel like probably a decade.
Wow. So, it almost sounds like you're talking about kind of like all these walls or rooms we create in our mind or our body as we're getting older and having different experiences. And then these Reiki sessions almost sound like they take these walls, they kind of drop them down and allow you to unrestrict yourself almost.
Yeah, there's definitely a deconstruction process that happens. And, that sounds quite crude and visceral, but that can be very gentle and loving. I mean, the energy of Reiki is very gentle and loving and nurturing. And yeah, these sessions can be very relaxing. Sometimes you're not even there on the table with me. Like, you are just out in the ethers, journeying to wherever you need to be, reconnecting with your higher self or wherever. So, sometimes we're removing entities and other energies that have attached to, your energetic being, and there's different words or motives that have been almost implanted into your body. Yeah. And we're removing that, almost like what you would maybe liken to an exorcism, but they're nowhere near as crazy as that.
So I start just levitating off the bed and on the Zoom call, or you're like, no.
Spinning heads or anything.
Yeah. For people listening, I'm going to put in the show notes, of course, where you can do this, because I know that I'm going to be scheduling something. I'm really interested in that. And what you just said,
beautiful.
Yeah, Jason, there's no doubt I'm definitely doing that. What you just said reminds me of on your Instagram, heal the deep shit lightly.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's kind of what you were just talking about.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be, the full push and the massive effort and the grinding through this stuff to come out the other end of it. A lot of modalities, I really feel, there's a lot of masculine energy that comes into play when we're just trying to get through it and release our stress and release our fatigue and all the trauma in our life. Whereas we don't have to attack it that way, like literally attack it like that. We can approach it in such a gentle, loving manner. And when we open up our heart and open up our mind and lean in with curiosity, that's when these things can just fall away, seemingly effortlessly, which is such a beautiful way to approach it.
100%. Mm-hmm. How do you, speaking of approaching, like, how do you approach your daily life? Like, how do you do it? Like, do you have rules you live by? Do you, what are the things that you live daily by?
Yeah, for sure. Are you talking like more of a schedule or just like life
No,
in
I
general,
meant
like
just like, I guess
philosophies
you
and
said, you
yeah.
mentioned love, opening your heart, and, you know, what are your
Mm,
intentions as you go throughout your day? I'm curious because as you're talking here, I just hear like, you know, all this great stuff. And I'm just like, what approach do you take to your day? You know, when, like,
mm.
how do you have all the energy that you have to serve your clients? How do you keep your heart open? You know, what do you, is it just a mindset? Is it something you tell
Yeah.
yourself all the time? Do you meditate 10 times a day?
I meditate twice a day,
Okay.
so for 20 minutes each time.
Yeah.
It's just when you come back to, when you start to establish that space, which I would call being, so being within your body,
Yeah.
and that it connects you to something that almost feels, for myself, it feels a little greater than, not greater than me, because I am it. We are everything. We are the universe. We are all connected. But it's just it's wanting to release suffering and just show compassion and be compassionate to everyone. I'm not too sure. It's just like it
Have
almost
you always been Well, I'll tell you what, have you always had that?
yeah.
Because as a male, you know,
Mm,
and I mean, that's not an excuse, right? But it's just, it's a little different for us. And compassion, empathy was never a part of my life for a long time. And so I've had to learn it. I've had to really dive in, unpack some
mm.
things over the past couple of years. Has it always been simple for you? Have you always had that from maybe you were growing up that
Yeah,
way?
I have actually always been very, patient and like a listener, and very much a responder rather than a reactor.
Okay.
So that has been a part of my nature from the get-go. But that doesn't mean to say that someone who perhaps doesn't have those characteristics at the forefront of their space, that doesn't mean that they can't embody them and also step into even this sort of career or this way of life as well. It's something that can be, it's like it's just like remembering. When we remember our nature, and our nature in essence, the universal song that sort of binds all of ourselves together is entrenched in unconditional love. So in essence, it is love that is our body. So when we connect to that space, that those things flow naturally. We become more compassionate. We become more curious about how we can be of service. It's just a natural disposition that is at the foundation of humanity.
Yeah, well, we need, like, humanity needs many more people like yourself. I mean, I'm always grateful when I talk to individuals that are just like helping others, using their energy, using their experience to heal others and help others, less stress, live life that they should. So truly, like, grateful for that from you, especially. Now, you used a word. I know we only have a few more minutes here, but I wanted to ask about this word you used a few times. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's Australian or what, but you said light dealer. I believe you said a few times.
Okay. Yeah.
What?
It's something that I recently put in my Instagram bio.
Or didn't you use that
So,
in this podcast a few times, or light post, or
oh, well, light worker.
light worker? Yeah, that's what you
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
is? What is? What do you
Yeah,
mean by
light
that?
worker. So a light worker is someone who is, generally they're in like an energetic realm of like, Reiki or spiritual healing, and they're light working. So basically a Reiki, someone who does Reiki is channeling light.
Yes.
So my image is like golden white light. So when, that's what I sort of deem as a light worker.
Okay.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
see. I see. Yeah. It's a kind
Light
of
dealer was just something so funny.
well,
Instead of,
I think that's so cool about you and others, like David G and others, is, they're it's not like this serious woo woo, really, because people get scared of that, and
yeah.
honestly, especially Western civilization. So, like, to add your own personality and your own quirkiness, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
your,
Oh,
like, that's so
absolutely.
cool. Like, that's, you got to
Yeah.
have to do, and that's why probably, people attract you. So, well, and also because of your hair, I'm sure they attract, want you to. If I meditate twice a day for like 10 years, can I get that hair too?
Hey, mate, there's a few grays coming through here, man. It's getting a bit scary.
That's funny.
You know, humor breaks walls down.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, we are very in Western society, we're very quick to shut things down if they feel a little like, you know, woo woo.
Yeah.
So ultimate relatability is like, you know, is like a fine art. And you know, I feel when you be yourself and you're just having fun and like enjoying the space, like, you know, people are magnetized to that. It doesn't matter if you're quirky or, you know, you got some kinks that you're showing in the world. Like, people love just people who are different.
Yeah.
And not to say I'm like different. It's just that, you know, I like to have fun. I like to have a joke. And one of my teachers, Johnny Pollard from One Giant Mind, he says that we take our work seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. And we have fun in the game. Like, it's just it's a beautiful expression of what we're here to do, and let's have fun doing it.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great advice. So with a few minutes here left, I'll ask you if you could go back, and I ask everybody this, if you could go back to your 18-year-old self, Jason, and tell them anything, you know, they would listen. What would you say to them?
Oh, well, 18 was a really, really tough time. Always feeling like choked up and like tingly, just even reminiscing. You know, I was smoking a lot of weed. I was living away from home. It was a time when 19 was a time when I went to the emergency department from, just having a humongous panic attack one night after smoking weed. And it was that point which set me off in like 3 years of anxiety, like 3 years of like literally gripping my chest and my heart so many times throughout the day because I thought I was going to have a heart attack. So, you know, I've done a lot of work on that time, and probably for the last 5 or so years, I haven't even, you know, there's not too much, not too often that I have to go back there, because it's like, you know, there's been a lot of reconciling, a lot of work being done, and I feel very comfortable. I don't have anxiety now. Anxiety is now a fleeting little high five just to point me back to a different direction, on the right direction. So, speaking to my 18-year-old self, I would just be saying, hey, like, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. And 10 years from now, or 10, 15 years from now, like, you're going to be in such, you know, a different place, helping so many people from this experience. And, you know, this is short-term pain for long-term gain. So, and, you know, even if I heard those words back then, that pain and you know, seemingly suffering that I was sitting within, it would have just dissipated anyway.
Interesting. And, you know, I love what you said. Like, if you didn't go through that, you wouldn't be here helping people in the way that you do. Right. So
there's
going through
absolutely
that suffering,
no way. Yeah.
It's wild. That's wild when I hear that.
Even though at 15, I did my first Reiki course. So, yeah.
Was that even a thing when you were 15? Did you have to go to India for that? I mean, what?
I went to a place called West Beach, which is about 2 suburbs that way. Look, it definitely wasn't. I mean, Reiki, I wouldn't say it's a household name now. You know, meditation is a household name.
It's becoming.
But Reiki is still on the fringes. And, you know, I just turned 34. So, you know, 15 years, when I was 15, you know, Reiki, mum did a Reiki course. I was like, are you crazy? Have they just like implanted like heat pads under your skin? Like, you're cuckoo. And then, you know, that was what Dad and I were saying to her. And then, you know, a year later, she said, hey, do you want to come along to do a Reiki course, like a children's Reiki course? I was like, you know what? I've experienced this a couple of times. I experienced the nurture within it, and I can feel the wisdom that's within there. So I was like, hey, you know, that probably wasn't what I was actually intellectualizing at that stage. I didn't perhaps have those words, but
right.
I knew there was something there. So yeah, at 15, I did Reiki 1 and 2, and then I revisited it at about 22.
Interesting. And that's, I'm just like that. You probably didn't appreciate it as much as, you know, at 15 years old. You have a whole different perspective on it then compared to 22, right?
Oh
That's
yeah, definitely. It was interesting. I think everything in my life has absolutely led me to this space.
cool.
The girlfriend that I had when I was 15, her mum was a spiritual healer and a Reiki master. And the girlfriend that I had before her mum was had done Reiki 1 and Reiki 2. And my mum had done Reiki 1 and Reiki 2. And there was just like there was, cosmic whispers. There was things being embedded into my nervous system to allow it to be accepted, like on such a deep level. When things come from with such like that, divine feminine, that open heart, and just like extreme layers of nurture from our mothers and the mothers within our community. What do? We accept that. We can accept that.
Yeah, that's the
And
universe speaking in many different ways to you there. Holy cow.
yeah. So it was normalized, and it just felt like the thing to do. Yeah.
Do you have to jump off now?
Let's do another 5.
Let's do another 5. Beautiful.
Good. If you got any more questions anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a million questions, but I guess we talked about Reiki. What about if you could leave, like if you were to, I'm interested from you through your experience, if you could leave like the world with 1 or 2 sentences or a message, and there was millions of people listening to this podcast, and you were to like never to able to talk to anybody ever again after this, what would you say? What would you tell?
Yeah, this is something that I just feel like it may not sound so cosmically cosmically constructed as a sentence, but it's just like, just have fun in this experience, in this life. We spoke before about being so serious, and we don't want to take ourselves too seriously. This is serious work, and we're working with people's deep emotions, and and there's a lot of trauma that has been cast upon this world. But in our endeavor to find who we are and express ourselves in this life, like, have fun doing it. It's something that I'm really learning for myself as well. So that's maybe why it's so pertinent, because there's so many more ways that I can embed fun and pleasure and just excitement into my day. Whereas those times back when I was landscaping and was like just grinding through, I'd go to landscaping and I'd start at 7 a.m, get home at 5 p.m, have a shower, scoff some food down, rush out the door, and be teaching at 7 o'clock for an hour meditation class, come back, go to bed, get up in the morning, and do it all again. So that was me thinking I was in service, but that was me just absolutely killing myself and being way too serious about it.
Way too serious. Yeah, I like that. And it's even during these times that we're in right now, I'm not sure what's going on over there with COVID. Are you guys still kind of in the, not lockdown, but
we're very much like, everything's pretty much open back up, and people are at restaurants and cafes, and it is a different
no any masks out there right now, or no masks, and just
I haven't
normal?
seen masks for ages.
Wow.
And even in the height of it, like, there were some people wearing masks, but in Australia, we've had, the other day I checked, and we'd had 102 deaths.
Oh, so you guys there's not much.
It's very, very different.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's still weird around here.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. And everybody, what's really interesting, Jason, is everybody, I wanted to get to this, but it's okay that we didn't, but everybody's taking it differently. Like some people are extremely anxious, extremely stressed out. Some people are like, it kind of is what it is. Like, we'll figure it out. Others are in denial. And it's just amazing to see everybody's different, way that they deal with it. Why is that? Is it just all, how come we're all so different the way we deal with things? Like, what do you attest to
from all of our past conditioning and everything, we all have different filters that we have over our eyes, that we all have different ways that we access information, and some things we block out because of past traumas that we've experienced, and we actually don't want to take ourselves or our nervous systems to those places to experience the fullness of the fullness of the situations. And and that is a lot of that. She'll be right sort of thing. But I'm not saying that that's a cookie cutter mold for that. There's just so many different things, and then there's so many different media sources as well, and everything is filtered. Everything is filtered. So it's really tapping into our truth about the situation and what is happening, and ourself and our truth is the only way that we can actually like come to a conclusion within our body about how to be in this space. And it's not an easy time for anyone, that's for sure.
No, it's confusing. And let's see, earlier you said you get those little feelings of anxiousness or anxiety, and that's just you tell your body saying like move a different direction or change, shift. Where do you feel that in your body? Is there a spot you feel it?
Oh, if I felt anxiety these days, it's probably around my chest area where I used to experience anxiety predominantly. As I said, I felt like I was going to have a heart attack, and it was a very extreme experience, and it was also something that was very physical. It was very, very physical. So these days it's just like a gentle, almost like a jolt, or if the barista has hooked me up with a caffeinated coffee as opposed to a decaf coffee, it's sort of like that same elevation of vibrational energy that I feel in my chest. And I get over the anxiety quicker than I get over a full caffeinated coffee these days. Yeah. I truly believe that anxiety is a signpost to tell us that we're just slightly off course.
Not to dwell too much into it, right? Not to start going off into this story in our minds and then get deeper and deeper and deeper into the anxiety, right? We want to make sure that doesn't happen, of course.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I keep looking at the time because I don't want to take your time. It's been 5 more minutes. So
no, that's perfectly fine, my friend. My Reiki client has just rolled in right now.
Nice. Beautiful.
That's like perfect timing.
All right, cool. I got everything. And I'm Jason, seriously, like, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for doing what you do. Really grateful.
Thank you for doing what you do. These, often the podcast, podcast creator doesn't see themselves in the way of a light worker, but you're truly sending a message and spreading love and light in your very own way, and that's very special as well.
Thank you. Okay, I will. I'll shoot you an email and we'll be in touch soon.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, man. Good to chat.
Yeah.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.